Call to order the Dickinson City Commission meeting for July 6th, 2021. Let the record show that all commissioners are present. First item up is the order of business. Mr. Winningham, are there any changes to the order of business?
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, there's no changes to the agenda or order of business.
Thank you, Mr. Winningham. Any questions for Mr. Winningham on the order of business?
Mr. President, I move to approve the order of business.
We have a motion to approve the order of business by Commissioner Frederick.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Sobeluk. Any further questions on the order of business? Hearing none, all in favor of the order of business as presented, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving to the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that the commission wishes to discuss? Not, I'd look for a motion on the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Oderman,
Second.
second by Commissioner Walla. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Oderman,
Aye.
Ms. Walla,
Aye.
Mr. Frederick,
Aye.
Mrs. Sobeluk.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Move right into our regular agenda. First item up is administration and finance. And Mr. Winningham, you have a motel hotel liquor license, Grand Dakota Lodge.
Mr. President and Commissioners, what you had seen on your agenda packet was the license for the new owners of the Grand Dakota Lodge, and the staff recommends approval. Subject to any of your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Winningham. Any questions for Mr. Winningham on the liquor license for Grand Dakota's new owners? Hearing none, I'd look for a motion on this liquor license.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Frederick,
Second.
second by Commissioner Sobeluk. Any further questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Frederick,
Aye.
Mrs. Sobeluk,
Aye.
Ms. Walla,
Aye.
Mr. Oderman,
Aye.
chair votes aye, motion carries. Our next item up is a liquor license transfer, on sale beer only for Men's Den. Mr. Winningham?
Mr. President and Commissioners, with the move of the business of the Men's Den Salon to a new location, we've gone through the process to reissue a liquor license for that establishment, and the staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. Winningham. Any questions for Mr. Winningham on this license transfer for the Men's Den? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. I'd look for a motion, excuse
I'll
me.
move to approve.
Second.
Ms. Walla with the motion to approve. Mr. Oderman seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mrs. Sobeluk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. John? Next item up, on the administration and finance is report by myself, and this is the administrator's evaluation. Commissioners, take a quick glance. This is the cumulative. You know what you've turned into me. This is cumulative score given by the commission. This will be placed into Mr. Winningham's record. I think you have a copy, Mr. Winningham. I'll just send you another copy down. Mr. Winningham, overall, the commission in their evaluations have scored Mr. Winningham at either very good to excellent in his position right now. You can see by the comments that the commission is overly satisfied with his performance. That is one of the reasons that tonight we will have an executive session to talk about Mr. Winningham's contract. You have seen the document that Mr. Winningham sent out. I think that was at the beginning of June, if I'm correct. And he is, in my opinion, doing an excellent job for us in the city. His job knowledge, some of the quotes from commissioners, he quickly adapts to situations, gathering information that's needed, challenges himself every day in the role as city administrator. He brings an expertise to the position that the city has never had before, and that's the opinion of the commissioners. Work quality, excellent. Provides city commission with excellent information. He holds people accountable, and he's done everything in a professional manner. Again, in his leadership, in relationships, possesses great leadership qualities, steady hand, and he has set the framework for continual improvement for individuals in the city as a whole. His initiative is excellent, and he continues to impress with his hard work. He addresses issues brought to the city, and one of the comments that commission or commissioners liked is the employee recognition program that he initiated. Communication skills, again, he rates very high on the scale, and people are impressed with Mr. Winningham and how he represents the city. And his dependability, again, Brian can be counted on to do the job, and he does an excellent job. So overall, I sat down with Mr. Winningham, did a short review of this. He would like, he's very type A, if you haven't noticed. He would have liked it to have been perfect across the board, but this is the first 6 months. So I do think we should move into executive this evening to address not only some of Mr. Winningham's requests, but some of our needs as a city long-term. So I'm willing to address those this evening and do that once we've finished up normal business. Any comments, commissioners?
Thank you for all you're doing and have done for the city, and you've really been a great addition to our team. And our community overall. You've been just a great citizen to bring. Thank you.
Well, it's nice that there's room for improvement on this, because the last 6 months have been phenomenal. So if he continues to improve these scores, can't think of where the city's going to go. So keep up the good work.
Agreed.
Mr. Winningham, any comments or?
First, just like to say thank you for the commission, and not mostly, but also the city staff for just being able to guide me along the way. It's always a team effort. Kind of feel like the NFL guy standing there making comments about it's always team effort. I can make all these platitudes. It's absolutely true, though, so I don't feel so bad for those guys, because, yes, it's the staff that's with you. It's the people around you. They absolutely could sabotage me at any time, and it would all go downhill, but that's the greatness of this city. The staff really wants the city to run well, and the citizens here that I have met also are able to support the city. So I'm just thankful for the opportunity. I'll continue to be really hard on myself, because that's just how I'm built. I do think I should have done better, and so I do have a lot to work on. I do have things that I want to continue to strive to be better every day. And so I take the comments that are in there. They're also another part of a guide for me that I can improve upon. But I think that we have a long way to go, and this is a good start point for me to kick off this next year when I look at the budget cycle, and I'm excited to do it. But I do want to thank the commission and And I do want to thank the staff that's really come alongside me to help us all succeed, and thank my family for just being behind me and moving here and engaging with the community and just trying to love life as we all are trying to do here. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move into public safety. First item in public safety this evening, we have a report from the fire department. Fire Chief Presnell.
Thank you, President Decker and Commission. Tonight I'll be presenting the June report for the fire department. Again, there's some of the services we do provide. Overall, we're seeing a slight decrease in calls since last month, but from last year, we're still up about 39%. We did see 62 calls for service in June. Our top two highest call volumes were EMS calls, and then false alarm, false calls. And then third came in good intent calls, which includes people calling in fire pits and stuff like that during the burn ban. So we are seeing some increases there, but overall, we are down compared to last month. We saw a significant increase on our calls south of town as compared to north. So the majority of our calls are happening south of the freeway. We did see some slight increases in our response time. It was about a 19-second increase for Station 1 and about a 35-second increase for Station 2. And it just had to do with location of calls and time of day and the number of calls. For the month of June, we did see a significant increase in our training hours. We had a couple major classes that we conducted in the fire department. This year we're really focusing on our officers, and we did some blue card command training, some incident command training, which accounts for a lot of those. But we're ahead of the curve for our ISO required training. And then I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Chief Presnell. Any questions for Chief Presnell?
Mr. President,
Godwin?
this might be a question for Chief Dossinger and Chief Presnell. How did it go this last weekend?
For the fire department, it was extremely quiet. I'll let Chief Dossinger speak for the police department.
Commissioner Waterman, I guess for the 4th of July timeframe, which I consider basically over that 4-day timeframe, we responded to a total of 446 calls for service over that timeframe. Firework-related calls, 74 from Friday through that Monday, and on the 4th we responded to 55 firework-related calls. So kind of a typical 4th of July weekend for us. There were a lot of people in town, but no major incidents.
Yeah, my next question you answered already was how to compare year to year. So,
446 calls for that time frame. Last year we responded to 359 calls, and in 2019 374 calls. So up a little bit, but no major incidents.
how about in terms of the fireworks calls? Because I mean, it seems like people were probably a little bit more alert to that this year.
They were slightly down. Obviously, there was less
Okay.
fireworks shot off in our community than in years past. So those numbers were down. But we still responded to 55 on the 4th and 74 over that 4-day time frame.
Imagine you might get some calls tonight.
With the rain, I imagine it's going to be much busier tonight
Yeah.
than this week. So.
Yeah.
Well, in the comments, even when the fireworks was canceled, the comments overall
Yeah,
were very positive.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a couple
Yeah.
outliers, but
you're right though. That was something I was going to make note of. Thank you for making that decision on Friday. But the comments on like the Facebook posts and stuff were overwhelmingly positive. So that was good to see.
I think people understood. I mean, I was making the comments earlier when we were sitting in the chamber, and Commissioner Frederick can back me up on this. Up where we have our cabins, usually that is a war zone on the 4th of July. It is probably the best fireworks show in the state because how many people buy fireworks. I heard 4 pops
Yeah, it was pretty quiet.
on the 4th of July, and I think somebody walked over and told them to knock it off, you know. But I think people understood it's a tinderbox out there. I mean, this helped, this rain helped, but it's still dry.
This weekend might be another story.
It could be a whole nother ballgame. So,
If they
yeah.
If they raise the burn ban or lift the burn ban.
So, yeah, it could be a whole nother story. I was just happy that overall, I mean, I saw the report coming out of Fargo. They had 15 fires over the weekend, 12 of them started by fireworks. So, I mean, so,
Yeah, a lot of self-restraint, which was good to see. So,
all right, thank you, Chief Prisnell. Police Department, we don't have a report this month, correct? We'll move into engineering. And handling this evening will be Planning Director Hadley. We have an NDDOT preliminary engineering agreement for microsurfacing.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Commission. This is an agreement for a 2024 project that would go along Highway 22 from 8th Street South to 15th Street North. And it's a 2024 project for mill and overlay microsurfacing. It's a typical agreement. I don't have the cost share at this point, but it's a typical thing that we do on these projects. It would be, for your motion, it would be PCN Project 23203. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
And you said you don't have the cost share on it. We have an overall, I'm looking here.
Typically, these come out just saying that we agree with the project
Right.
and we get something later.
That is their road.
On page 8 of 25, there is a funding breakdown.
Okay, good. I think Commissioner Frederick was right. We end up, the feds end up taking the brunt of this. So. We did have a discussion this afternoon with our representative, Armstrong, trying to get more money, always, the city. We'll see how that goes. Any other questions for Mr. Hadley?
Mr. President,
Mr. Oderman?
move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Oderman,
I'll second that.
second by Commissioner Sobeluk. Any further discussion, questions? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Mrs. Sobeluk?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Mr. Hadley, you have a engineering agreement for a mill and overlay.
Thank you, Mr. President. And this is very typical 2024 project, just like the last one. It was Highway 22 from 29th Street north to the urban boundary, which is about 40th, going north.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Hadley on this agreement?
No. Mr. President, I move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Frederick,
Second.
second by Commissioner Walla. Any further discussion on this agreement with North Dakota Department of Transportation? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Mr. Frederick,
Aye.
Ms. Walla,
Aye.
Mr. Oderman,
Aye.
Mrs. Sobeluk.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay right here, I guess. We'll go right into planning.
Usually he gets cut off right about now and we have to
Yeah,
go to
we-
5 o'clock.
Well, you got 11 minutes, so
Want me to duck down?
we'll cut you off halfway through. So we have a rezone request from Porter Wilk Properties.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a rezoning request, first reading, and it would be ordinance 1721. And as you can see, could you cut the lights, please? Dan Porter Motors is to your right on the screen there. This site is outlined in the red. It has an existing home on it. The request was to change the zoning from our rural designation for residential to R1, and that will allow that person to split that lot. As you can see to the west A number of those lots were created, or this subdivision was created at Stark County, and I believe a number of these lots have been split throughout the years. We do provide city sewer and water. You can faintly see the blue and green line just to the west of this site, that they will be tying both homes into. The Planning Commission heard this item. There was no public testimony against it, and city staff would recommend approval.
Mr. Hadley, are they tearing the existing home down and they're gonna, or they're gonna split it to the back?
No, they will leave the existing home and then divide the lot in our irregular plat process and build another home to the west. I call it west, it's kind of northwest.
Thank you, Mr. Hadley. Any other questions for Mr. Hadley on ordinance 1721 as a rezone request? If there are no other questions, this is the first reading. And we'll have the public hearing
Next time, yes.
next meeting. So with that, if there are no further questions, I'd look for a motion on 1721.
I move to approve.
A motion to approve by Commissioner Sobeluk,
Second.
second by Commissioner Walla. Any further discussion, questions? Hearing none, go ahead and vote. Mrs. Sobeluk,
Aye.
Ms. Walla,
Aye.
Mr. Frederick,
Aye.
Mr. Oderman.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have some public hearings for 5 o'clock. That, in the meantime, we'll go to the commission. Commissioners, are there any items you wish to bring up? That were not on the agenda?
We're just going too fast tonight.
Efficiency. There is a couple things that I was going to bring up where we are going to, Commissioner Wally, you're going to be not at the 20th, right? You're going to be traveling back on the 20th? Our
Yep.
work session and meeting? So just so that Commissioner Frederick and Commissioner Oderman know, and Commissioner Sobeluk will be absent at that meeting also. So just in case we do have to make a decision on something, we might have to, you'll be available by call. I know, maybe,
Depending where I'm
for
at.
service. And I know Commissioner
And I
Sobeluk said.
should be able to be available by call for votes or something too, if there's something that I need to. I think my meeting ends at like 4, so it'd be later in the work session. That's for Central Time, so it'd be later in the work session. Or at commission that night.
And then, coming up next week, there's been a request that we send some individuals to Watford City to meet with the Grand Forks Chamber. Mr. Winningham and Commissioner Frederick are going to participate. It's early morning on the 14th, so it'll be Williston and Watford City and us, and I think Kildare might participate in this roundtable up there. So that'll go down on the 14th. Another item that has come to my attention is there's some possibilities out there through different organizations to pursue something you brought up, Mr. Oderman, the homeless, behavioral health, and items like that. I'm willing to help out the organization to go forward. If they haven't asked any monetary request. I think that basically it's just going to be city support. Usually Bush type grants, Bush Foundation, stuff like that. So I think we'll pursue those. And then I'm trying to think, there was something else that came up. Oh, I did have a question, and I don't see Mr. Zuroff's here, but maybe Mr. Prowse can answer it if he comes forward.
See what happens when you show up to the meeting? There you go.
Duly appointed representative.
Well done.
Good evening.
Just a question, and you may not know this.
I'll do my
and
best.
Mr. Winningham, and when somebody basically abandons a building or shuts it down,
Mhm.
do we continue to collect when they shut off water and sewer and garbage collection, do we continue to collect like stormwater and such? We continue to collect the base fee, I would take it, for the water and everything. There's no way they can completely disconnect from all city services, I don't think.
To my knowledge, they don't, but I don't believe we actually collect fees for it,
Okay.
because the stormwater isn't actually metered, only the water going in is metered.
I think we probably just need to get that official. Because I know there was a call to the front desk today and a call to me about they're still being charged, so. But I don't know, so,
We'll review it.
Right.
Mr. President, I think there's a few things that particular issue will help the city if we do tighten up the policy, internal policy.
Right.
But it may have to be something we look at in our code when we do an abandonment. Because they're still bound by, essentially, the code doesn't address every single situation, but if we've officially been notified of an abandonment, or we've notified a person that their property's been abandoned, that's probably something we will. Linda, do you have a comment?
I was just going to state that if we get a notice from utility billing, if we get a notice that a property's been abandoned, normally it goes back to a mortgage or something like that, and that bank will take on the base fees, which is our storm, our lights. They take that on and then we have the opportunity, if it doesn't get paid, then it's assessed onto the property through the county each year in October. So that's kind of how it goes, and Mr. Winningham is correct. Our code does not state what to do if we do have an abandonment and stuff, so we will look into that and stuff and bring it forward maybe to our work session.
my understanding that the building is paid for. They just don't live here anymore, don't rent it, it just exists, and they've just turned off everything in it. So, but they're still being charged for the base water and the base, like, storm water, so I guess we just,
Did they shut
probably,
it?
we probably need to
They might have shut it
clarify
off
that.
as snowbirds, but I can look into that for you.
Right, so,
I'll get you an answer.
all right.
Mr. President, this might be longer than the minute and a half that we have here, but Mr. Winningham, do we have any type of update on like a youth commission or any youth program that we talked about in the past couple months?
We have a draft resolution and a topic that we can briefly talk about at the next city work session on the 20th of July. There was a few things that were sort of hanging that I hadn't completed yet. That the resolution and then the construct of that commission. It could either be titled, it's really looking at whether it's going to be the city commission's youth commission, the Dickinson Youth Commission, the mayor's youth commission. Many municipalities do it different ways, but I do have a draft resolution, but I think it's a work session that could go right into adding to the agenda, but I think we're close, and I was looking forward to having that started by the beginning of the school year.
Great.
I know Watford City has something similar right now. Mr. Bertinelli formed up there in Watford City, so I don't know how similar theirs would be to ours, but I know they are running something through the Rough Rider Center, I think.
I know our sister city, Grand Forks, has a really successful one, so they too would be a good group to reach out to.
Okay.
So you'll see some communication before that meeting from me, and then get it on the work session. It'll be a very brief portion of the work session, so I have to send the communication in some more detail because we're going to be encumbered by the budget work session on the 20th.
Thank you.
And speaking of updating codes, we have code update. City Attorney Winko, we have a public hearing for Chapter 11 code update.
Mr. President, Commissioners, before you is 3 ordinances. The one specifically that we'll discuss here at 5 p.m. is Chapter 11. This particularly is an amendment that came out of the recent legislative updates, which amended the North Dakota Century Code. This Chapter 11 code amendment will allow cities to convert judgments into civil judgments in district court. This was a remedy that was not available to municipalities. And I must say, and I have to give a lot of credit where credit is due to Judge Keough, who was instrumental in getting this through the state legislature. So he is definitely deserving of some of this credit, because without him, I don't think it would have gotten as far as it did. So this basically allows the city that opportunity to do that in the event it chooses to do so. And I would stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Winko. Any questions for Mrs. Winko? This should be 1722?
Correct.
1722, ordinance 1722. Hearing no questions, this is a public hearing. I'll open up the public hearing. If anyone has any concerns on our Chapter 11 code update, please come forward, state your name, and let us know your concerns with our update to the Chapter 11 code. Are there any questions? If you're watching online, you may call in to area code 701-456-7006.
The conference is currently empty. You will hear silence or music and hold when connected.
Anyone from the public have any concerns on our update to Chapter 11? Anyone? Seeing no one has any concerns with our update to Chapter 11, close the public hearing. Commissioners, any further questions, comments? Not, I'd look for a motion. We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Sobeluk.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Oderman. Any further questions, comments? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Mrs. Sobeluk? Aye. Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick? Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Our next public hearing is a Chapter 23 code update. City Attorney Winko, you'll be handling this.
Mr. President, Commissioners, before you is the ordinance with regard to Chapter 23 code updates. These, again, pertain to the recent legislative updates that amended the North Dakota Century Code. What we're seeing in Chapter 23, which relates specifically to traffic ordinances, there's a lot of cleanups and clarifications done at the state level, and we're also seeing some different regulations with regard to bicycles and things of that nature. But these are standard updates to keep us in line with what the North Dakota Century Code provides. And I would stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Winko. Any questions for Mrs. Winko on these updates? Again, this is a public hearing. I'll open up the public hearing. If anyone wishes to come forward, has any concerns or questions on the Chapter 23 code update, please come forward, state your name, let the commission know your concerns. This is ordinance 1723. Anyone with any concerns? If you're watching online, 701-456-7006. Anyone have any concerns with our Chapter 23 code update? Anyone have any concerns? Seeing and hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Commissioners, do you have any further comments or questions on Chapter 23 code update?
Mrs. Winko, I think we've got a word missing, section 2348, 105, clause 5. Last line there, vehicle or bicycle on the shall.
Okay, I will make that change.
Is it on the right or on the left, or? I would imagine it's on the left.
I will have to check, Commissioner Oderman. I don't want to say one way or the other without having it
Yeah.
directly in front of me from the actual statute. So we'll make that change.
Okay.
I have a question. It's not necessarily for us approving this, but there's a lot. This is kind of a intense bicycle section. How does this get out to the public?
Commissioner Sobeluk, there were, as you can see, quite a few significant amendments with bicycles and just making sure that bicyclists are obeying the rules of the road, because accidents do happen. As far as how that information gets disseminated to the public, perhaps Chief has some input on that, or something we can come up with creatively to get the word out. I have no specific thoughts on that, but I'm open for whatever.
It's usually included in the driver's license handbooks for new people, and for new drivers to study, and those changes are usually updated in there. As far as advertising by the city, we can certainly put it out on our Facebook page and other issues like that, but these reflect legislative updates made by the state of North Dakota, so hopefully the state of North Dakota updates their driver's education handbooks and textbooks, so to speak. So
There's nothing specifically given out to people on bicycles. I mean, we don't hand out anything when they buy a bicycle license, right?
we don't, I mean, the city of Dickinson, we do Safety City,
Right.
events like that, but they're more targeted towards the younger individuals in our community, but nothing pertaining to the average adult that's riding a bicycle. We don't distribute any material, so to speak.
Maybe we could have a place on our website when we do these code updates that,
Yeah. Any code update, just have a link, click on it.
just a thought.
I think that's a good recommendation. We'll put that in place. Having reviewed the bicycle portion of our code, I would call it complaint-based. So we don't receive a lot of complaints about bicycles. But to get in front of it, we would be doing, we have prescribed a lot more authority in the code than I think we are enforcing. I say that because as a complaint-based, we're not issuing bicycle permits, although we could. I just don't think we're receiving enough of the issues. But we do want to be aware that if people are out riding bicycles, that they have to abide by those traffic laws that are in place.
I know at one time, I know we still have the bicycle license.
Correct. We
A
still
bike
issue,
license.
we still issue bicycle licenses, and the main purpose behind that is when bicycles are abandoned,
Right.
stolen, if people take the time to license their bikes, it's an easy way to get the bicycle back to them, or know who the bike belongs to if it's abandoned in our community.
And what is our throughput rate? I mean, off the top of your head, Chief, if you could tell us. I mean, I don't know how many you see. I've asked this question a couple months ago on whether we're stopping anybody and looking for their bicycle license, and I know that wasn't the intent. I think, although it does say that in the code that we could enforce that, but I don't think that's what we spend a lot of time doing. So
We are not targeting bicycle violations. Unless they're a young individual and they have their bike helmet on, we give them a free Dairy Queen. We're not targeting a bicycle violation.
That's good enforcement, though.
it's good enforcement. Yes.
if you do read it, the last paragraph here, if you do run a stop sign and you get hit, it's your fault. You know, it's basically, that's probably something that people should know, that you do have to adhere to the rules. You just don't, just because you're on a bicycle, you just can't blow a intersection. So,
I do agree there's lots of good common sense here.
Right.
You know, stopping at the stop sign or the stoplight. I mean, when I drive my bike, I guess I always thought I had to follow those. I didn't realize people didn't until I read this, and I realized people must obviously not.
So,
But
I'm going to be that guy again. If it's good common sense and we don't really enforce it, and there isn't really like an enforcement mechanism, do we need to codify it?
Commissioner Oderman, I think this is going to be a situation where it's going to be a lot of officer discretion in the field. You know, where I could see the most concern and the most issue is when we're talking major, heavily traveled intersections, and we've got bicyclists blowing through those intersections, and we could see some accidents.
Sure.
I think that the officers in that situation are well within their discretion to exercise and to observe it in that circumstance. So I think we need to have it on the books for that situation, because I think there are going to be and have been some blatant violations. Is it a situation where we have to cite everyone every single time? No, but is it a situation where an officer could give a warning to prevent something tragic from happening in the future? Absolutely. But again, I think it's going to be in a lot of situations very much like speeding tickets and so forth. A lot of it's going to be officer discretion. But I think we do need to vest them with the authority to make that decision in the moment.
So Chief Dossinger, what did we do in the past when we saw things like that?
You know, nothing's going to change as far as enforcement. Why this has to be codified? If we had a bicycle-related accident.
Yeah.
You know, that's really when we're going to refer back to it. When we have a major incident, we have a bicycle or an injured bicyclist from an accident. These are the codes that we could refer back to. There's not any change, any major changes compared to our old ordinances as far as the enforcement mechanism, as far as changing it. It's good common sense. If you come to a stoplight or a stop sign, you need to stop on your bicycle. And the bicycle thing is just a small portion of the updated codes in Chapter 23. So,
Yeah, thank you.
and there are intersections that are problematic.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
If you're coming south on 22, that T-Rex intersection, you have to watch for the bicyclers coming down that path. They'll blow right through
Yep.
that on the right side, and regardless of what the signal is. So it's good to have that to protect the law enforcement individual. So, but any other questions before, or comments?
And did we add this bicycle section on our own, or was this something that came out of state legislation this year?
Commissioner Sobek, this is direct text from state legislation. So this just gives the authority for the city to enforce this as its own codified law.
All right, I'll look for a motion on 1723.
I'd move to approve.
Commissioner Sobeluk, motion to approve, second by Commissioner Frederick. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mrs. Sobeluk?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Next public hearing will be Chapter 25 Code Update. Mrs. Wenko?
Mr. President, Commissioners, the last ordinance that you have in front of you is Chapter 25, which pertains to our criminal offenses. Some of the major changes that we're seeing in this particular ordinance is a reduction for a minor in possession, which is currently a misdemeanor, that will now become an infraction. We're seeing a heightened penalty for second offenses of retail theft, and there are some discretionary and mandatory addiction evaluations for minors in possession, and some minors in possession of marijuana and just possession of marijuana in general. These again are results of the recent legislative updates, and this just makes us consistent with the amendments to the North Dakota Century Code, and I would stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Wenko. Any questions on ordinance 1724? Hearing no immediate questions, I'll open up the public hearing. If anybody from the public wishes to come forward, state your name, please. Let us know your concerns with 1724, which is our Chapter 25 code update. Again, if you're watching online, 701-456 7006. Anyone from the public have any concerns? Anyone from the public? Anyone watching online? Seeing no one from the public has any concerns with the Chapter 25 code update, close the public hearing. This is ordinance 1724. Commissioners, do you have any further questions or comments? Not, I'd look for a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Walla, a second by Commissioner Oderman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mrs. Sobola?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. That moves us right into public comments not on the agenda. If you wish to address the commission on an item that is not on the agenda, please come forward, state your name, and let us know your concern. And if you're watching online, you may call in 701-456-7006. Any public comments that are not on the agenda, please come forward, state your name, let us know your concern. Anyone from the public? Seeing no one has any comments that were not on the agenda, I'll close that section down. We've handled the commission comments. The next item up would be,
Mr. President,
yes.
do we have to make a motion to enter executive
Yes, we
session?
do. And we're contract negotiations, executive session under North Dakota Century Code 44-0419.1 and 44-0419.2. This is for financial discussions between the city commissioners. There'll be the city commissioners and our attorney present, and we do have to set up, and the room has to be cleared. We will have that discussion. I do need a motion to move to executive session.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Oderman, second by Commissioner Soboluk. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
We'll move to executive session. Okay, we're ready? We have a motion to move from executive by Commissioner Oderman. We have a second? Second by Commissioner Frederick. All in favor?
Aye.
I've been given instructions by the commission to enter into negotiations with Mr. Winningham. We'll proceed to do that in the next few days and bring back an agreement to the commission to hopefully be approved on maybe as early as the first part of August, I would say, if not sooner. So we'll work with that. Okay? Anything else, commissioners?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned.